November 24th, 1940. Bentley Priory, Stanmore. Air Chief Marshal Hugh Dowding sits at his desk in the office he has occupied for 4 years. The Battle of Britain is over. The invasion has been called off. The Luftwaffe has failed. Someone is standing in his doorway to tell him he is finished. He built this headquarters, hectored the Air Ministry for the concrete bunker beneath it, wired it into a nervous system stretching across southern England. The system worked. His fighter boys came home, and now he is being replaced. 6 months earlier, the question was not whether Dowding would be fired, but whether there would be anything left of Britain to fire him from. May 15th, 1940. Dowding has commanded RAF Fighter Command since 1936, building an integrated air defense system the Air Ministry barely wanted. Radar stations, operations rooms, sector controllers, everything coordinated to the minute. He calculated the minimum number of squadrons necessary to defend Britain: 52. Fighter Command had 34. He wrote letters about the shortfall. No one listened. He was supposed to retire in June 1939. The Air Ministry asked him to stay on because of the international situation. Until March 1940, they said. Then they extended it again and again. He has been serving on borrowed time since before the war began. He could be removed at any moment with no process required. Then Germany invaded France. Within 5 days, the Muses crossed, the Allied line broken. French Prime Minister Paul Reynaud telephones Winston Churchill, Britain's new Prime Minister, in office less than a week, and says we are defeated. Churchill wants to send fighters. So more fighters. Every squadron he can spare, and some he cannot. Dowding watches his Hurricanes disappear into France at a rate of dozens per day. 52 squadrons down to 36. He runs the calculation. At this rate, in 2 weeks, there will be nothing left. He has been here before. The Somme, 1916. Commanding a wing, he argued that pilots needed rest, that frequent patrols over enemy lines cost too many lives. His request was granted. He was also stripped of his command and given no further appointment in France. 25 years later, the pattern holds. Compassion for his men, punishment from the institution. But this time, he cannot stay silent. On the morning of May 15th, Dowding appears before an informal committee. Churchill, the Minister of Aircraft Production, the Air Minister. He pulls a hand-drawn graph from his pocket, places it in front of the Prime Minister. A red line descends across the page. If the current rate of hurricane losses continues for 10 more days, there will not be a single hurricane left in either France or England. Churchill stares at the graph, says nothing. That afternoon, Dowding attends the formal War Cabinet meeting. He does not speak. The Cabinet votes to send 4 more squadrons to France anyway. The graph has closed a door. Churchill cannot later claim he didn't know, but Dowding has won the argument and lost the room. That night, Dowding sits down and writes a letter to the Under-Secretary of State at the Air Ministry. The tone is cold, almost insubordinate. He reminds the Air Council that they estimated 52 squadrons were necessary to defend Britain, and his strength has been reduced to 36. He requests that the Air Ministry decide what level of strength will be left to Fighter Command for the defense of the country and assure him that when that level is reached, not one fighter will be sent across the Channel, however urgent and insistent the appeals for help may be. He knows how it will be received. He is telling the government the fight in France is lost, that more squadrons will only add to the wastage, that the whole war could be lost if they continue. He seals it, sends it. The argument is now part of the permanent record. If they drain Fighter Command anyway, it will be done with this letter in the file. He has forced accountability into a process that has been operating entirely on impulse and sentiment. The next afternoon, May 16th. Churchill holds a summit in Paris with Reynaud. He telephones London afterward, asks for 6 more squadrons to be sent to France. The letter and the call cross each other in the system. Late that afternoon, the War Cabinet meets again. The Air Minister mentions Dowding's argument. The Cabinet agrees, reluctantly, that the 6 squadrons can operate from French airfields during the day, but must return to Britain at night. Churchill is furious, not because he disbelieves Dowding's logic, because the logic won. Dowding has used the correct argument to overrule the Prime Minister in front of his cabinet. The grudge forms here. Over the following weeks, Churchill continues to request fighters. Dowding stalls, basing planes in southern England, flying them into France piecemeal, slowing the drain but unable to stop it entirely. Then, on June 3rd, Dowding attends the War Cabinet one final time. He speaks plainly. At the rate of losses endured, he says, we shall not have a single hurricane left in France or in this country. The room goes silent. No additional squadrons will be sent to France. Dowding has won, but what he has won is narrow, and it is already damaged. Fighter Command enters the summer with a reserve that exists only because Dowding fought his own government to preserve it. The margin he calculated 4 years ago has been bled thin. There is nothing extra, no comfortable surplus. Just enough if the arithmetic holds. It does not hold. The Luftwaffe arrives in August. Operation Eagle attack. Day after day, German bombers hammer fighter bases and aircraft factories. Dowding's system holds. Barely. The losses mount. On September 1st, Dowding realizes he has no more fresh squadrons to rotate into 11 Group, the sector covering southern England, which bears the heaviest fighting. He takes what he will later call a desperate expedient. He divides his remaining squadrons into 3 categories, A, B, and C, combat ready. Rebuilding, shattered. It is not strategy. It is triage. He is sorting what he has left and labeling it. 2 days later, he reports to Churchill that 25% of Fighter Command's pilots have been lost since July. About a quarter of his remaining pilots have less than 2 weeks of flying experience. Among those pilots still flying is a young man on 74 Squadron, Derek Dowding, his son. Dowding never mentions this in any meeting, never uses it as an argument. On September 7th, Hermann Göring dispatches 1,000 bombers to strike London. The Luftwaffe switches from grinding down airfields to city bombing. Göring believes Fighter Command is nearly broken. The switch gives Dowding's damaged sector stations time to recover, time he could not have created for himself. On September 17th, Hitler postpones Operation Sea Lion, the invasion of Britain, until further notice. The battle is over. Britain has survived. And now, November 24th, someone is standing in Dowding's office at Bentley Priory to tell him his service is no longer required. He is being replaced by Air Vice Marshal Sholto Douglas, an advocate of big wing tactics, the tactics Dowding spent the summer resisting. Dowding stands, leaves his desk, walks out of the headquarters he built. He was asked to write an official report of the Battle of Britain. He wrote it carefully, then putting into words what he and his chicks endured over those 4 months. The pages stacked up. He submitted them. The report was never published. The Air Ministry wrote its own history of the battle. It did not mention his name. The Air Ministry denied Dowding promotion to Marshal of the Royal Air Force. The stated reason, only holders of the appointment of Chief of the Air Staff had been given the highest rank. At the end of the war, this precedent was set aside. Sholto Douglas and Bomber Harris, neither of whom ever served as Chief of the Air Staff, were both promoted to Marshal of the Royal Air Force. The men who replaced Dowding received the rank he was denied. In his later years, Dowding became a spiritualist, writing books about meeting spirits. In the summer of 1968, 86 years old and unable to walk, that he was brought in a wheelchair to Hawkinge Airfield in Kent. A film was being made about the battle. Sir Laurence Olivier was playing him. Olivier, who had himself flown as a pilot in the Royal Navy during the war, sat behind a desk on the set and later told Dowding he had spent the day pretending to be him. Dowding smiled, said he was sure Olivier had done it beautifully. The man who saved Britain sat at the airfield where some of his chicks had once launched, watching someone else become him.